1 Corinthians chapter 10. Have you ever felt like you were walking a tightrope in your faith, balancing between the world's pressures and God's path? Perhaps you faced a temptation so strong it seemed impossible to resist. Or maybe you felt overconfident in your own strength, only to stumble when you least expected it. Well, today I want to talk about something that affects us all: how we can navigate the challenges, temptations, and struggles of life with God's guidance. And in this chapter, Paul's words offer a powerful roadmap for living faithfully and wisely. He reminds us of the lessons from the past, the dangers of pride, and the faithfulness of a God who never abandons us. As we explore this chapter, I invite you to reflect on your own journey and open your heart to what God might be teaching you today. Learn from the past. So, Paul begins this chapter with a history lesson. He recounts how the Israelites, God's chosen people, experienced incredible blessings during their journey out of Egypt. They witnessed miracles, the parting of the Red Sea, manna from heaven, and water from a rock. Yet, despite these blessings, they repeatedly fell into sin: idolatry, sexual immorality, testing God, and grumbling. Because of their disobedience, many never reached the promised land. And Paul reminds us in verse 6 that these events are a warning. He states, "Now these things occurred as examples to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things as they did." And the Israelites' mistakes serve as a mirror for us as well. I mean, how often do we receive God's blessings but fail to honor Him? Sometimes a simple thank you to the Lord is something that I think goes a long way with Him. We should reflect on the blessings in our life, our health, our relationships, and the abundant opportunities that we receive as believers. Are you using them to glorify God, or are you taking them for granted? It's a good question, right? Because the past is full of lessons if we're willing to learn. So let's commit to honoring God in every season, whether in abundance or in struggle. Avoid overconfidence. So in verse 12 of this chapter, Paul delivers a sobering warning. He says, "So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall." You see, overconfidence can be a dangerous trap. When we think we're invincible, we stop depending on God, and that's when we're most vulnerable to failure. Think about a time when you thought you had everything under control. Maybe you believed that you were strong enough to resist temptation or handle a challenge alone, only to find yourself overwhelmed. Paul's words remind us that no one is immune to failure, and humility is essential in our faith journey. This isn't about living in fear, but about living in awareness. Stay grounded in prayer. Surround yourself with a community of believers who can encourage and support you. And most importantly, recognize your dependence on God's strength, not your own. God provides a way out. Now, one of the most comforting truths in this chapter is found in verse 13. It states, "No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it." Now, let's think about that for a minute. First, temptation is universal. Everyone faces it, right? Sometimes we're isolated in our struggles, and it's as if no one else could understand. You ever been there? I definitely have. But in this chapter, Paul's reminding us that our battles are not unique. Others have faced them, and with God's help, they overcame them. Second, God's faithfulness is unwavering. So he doesn't abandon us in our moments of weakness, ever. Instead, he promises to provide a way out. And this might be a clear choice to walk away, a friend who speaks truth into your life, or it could even be an opportunity to refocus on his word. It's up to us to recognize and take that way out. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, just remember, you're not alone, and God has already equipped you to stand firm. And look for his escape route and trust in his faithfulness. Flee from idolatry. So Paul urges us in verse 14 when he says, "Therefore, my dear friends, flee from idolatry." While we might think of idolatry as bowing to statues or worshiping false gods, it's much broader than that. You see, idolatry is anything we place above God in our lives. It could be money, career, relationships, social media, or even our own comfort. Take a moment to examine your heart and ask yourself, what competes with God for your attention and devotion? Is it the endless pursuit of success, the approval of others, or the comfort of staying in your safe zone rather than stepping out in faith? Paul's advice here is simple. Flee. Don't negotiate or rationalize. Just run. By removing idols from your life, you make room for God to reign fully in your heart. Let's commit to putting him first in everything we do. Live for God's glory. So Paul concludes this chapter with a powerful call to action. He says, "So whatever you eat or drink, or whatever you do it all for the glory of God." And this is a reminder that our faith isn't confined to church on Sunday or quiet moments of prayer. It's woven into every part of our lives. Our work, our conversations, decisions, and even the mundane routines that we have in our lives, such as eating or drinking. Ask yourself, how can you glorify God in your daily life? Maybe it's through kindness to a coworker, integrity in your choices, or gratitude for the little things. When we live with intention and glorify God, every action becomes an act of worship. Let this verse guide your thoughts and actions, reminding you of your ultimate purpose. So, as we wrap up, let's revisit some of the core lessons from this chapter. So, Paul challenges us to learn from the past, to stay humble and trust God's faithfulness, to flee from idolatry, and live every moment for his glory. Now, these aren't just words on a page. They're practical, life-changing truths that equip us to navigate life's challenges with grace and purpose. So, as you leave here today, I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions. What lessons from the past can I apply to my present life? Where am I relying on my own strength instead of God's? And how can I glorify him in the little and big moments of my life? Remember, God is faithful. He is with you in your struggles and provides strength in your weakness. And he gives you all the tools to overcome every obstacle. So let's step into this week with our hearts open and his guidance and glory in our lives. Let's fully surrender. Thank you, and may God's peace and strength go with you. Amen. It's beautiful, isn't it? I'm so glad I had the chance to share this time with you. Now, tomorrow we're going to discuss 1 Corinthians chapter 11. It's going to be filled with some really good stuff, I'm sure. We're both going to enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to spending that time with you tomorrow. So don't let me down. Show up. Let's spend some time together and have a talk. It makes my day better. It makes my day feel special, and the time that I spend with you is my favorite time each day. I can't wait to see you. Take care, friends. Be well, okay? Be blessed.